Welcome to episode 2 of CT Talks, College Internship Stories, and we cannot wait to introduce you to our amazing panelists to hear their career journeys, experiences, and insider look to their internship at Caltrans. So my name is Laura Estrada Adams, and I'm a Strategic Communications and Outreach Coordinator with my team, and I'm coming to you from Caltrans headquarters in beautiful Sacramento. As you are joining us today, this afternoon, I'm going to put a message right here in the chat. Let me just go ahead and do that right now. And with that message, just letting you know that we are currently recording this session and that the session is being streamed live with YouTube. And in case you have any issues with viewing, please use the following link and it's in the chat now for you. And for any attendees that are currently on YouTube and you want to ask any questions during this webinar, please reach out to us to our email at dhr.communications@dot.ca.gov. And then we'll be able to retrieve your questions from there as well. During the webinar, we encourage you to use the chat to put your questions in and for the panelists, and also feel free to use your emojis. If there's something that really resonates with you, feel free to use your clapping hands, thumbs up. We love all of that. We are going to have time at the end of this webinar for Q&A as well. Next, I'm going to kick it over to Harriet, my colleague, for a quick introduction.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you being here today. My name's Harriet Simpson. I work with Laura in the Strategic Communications Unit with our Division of Human Resources for Caltrans. And I am also joining you from beautiful Sacramento, kind of autumnal Sacramento right now, which I'm loving. So I wanted to introduce you to what we're going to be covering today. Obviously, these are insightful conversations connecting with the people of Caltrans, but more specifically, we have 3 amazing panelists here to share their experiences and their insights. Laura and I will be getting more of an inside scoop on their experience, and then you will also have a chance to ask your burning questions at the end. So with that, we have a few biographies prepared that we would love to share with you. So I'll kick it to Laura to start that off.
Awesome. So I'm here to introduce you to John Villarino, our first panelist. John is a recent graduate from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo with a BS in anthropology and geography with an individualized concentration in archaeology and geographic information systems. He currently works as an archaeological field technician with various cultural resources management, also known as CRM, companies as a student assistant with Caltrans District 5, which is located in San Luis Obispo. As a student assistant, John has learned a lot about the different laws and processes that make up the CRM and the role that Caltrans plays in them. Outside of school and work, John volunteers with a local tribal council and archaeological society. He enjoys spending his free time outdoors. John began his career in archaeology and CRM, and he is excited to gain new skills, add to his experience, and educate others on the importance of cultural stewardship. Thanks, John, for joining us.
All right, and I have the pleasure of introducing Isidro. Isidro Perez grew up in the Central Valley and attended Fresno State University, earning a Bachelor's of Science degree in Civil Engineering in 2018. He started his career at Caltrans as a student assistant, working with traffic investigations and truck services in 2015. He was hired full-time at Caltrans in 2018 as a transportation engineering technician and soon became a transportation engineer. He received his professional engineer license in 2020 and worked as the lead project engineer on various projects, including freeway widening, roundabout, and bridge replacement. While on his 8-month construction rotation, he worked as a resident engineer where he led 2 maintenance slab replacement projects. Most recently, in 2021, he was promoted to senior transportation engineer, overseeing traffic management, where he is responsible for operating the Central Valley Transportation Management Center and District 6 Emergency Operations Center. Early in his career, he received mentoring from others, and it has been a tremendous support for his professional growth. Now he is a mentor, hoping to motivate and inspire students and other professionals to reach their full potential. Thanks for being here with us, Isidro. And
last but not least, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Jasmine Gonzalez. Jasmine is a proud Latina in STEM and a fourth-year student at CSU Fresno's Lyles College of Engineering, where she is pursuing a degree in civil engineering. She is very involved with school and its organizations, proudly serving as a cabinet member for the American Public Works Association and a member of the American Society of Civil Engineers, amongst other engineering organizations. Jasmine recently hit her 1-year mark as a student assistant, where she has been gaining valuable experience from her work zone operations team at Caltrans District 6 office and under the supervision of Isidro Perez, our other panelist today. Outside of school and work, Jasmine also assists with a mentoring organization to give back by helping others through their academic or professional journeys. As Jasmine embarks on her 4th year at Fresno State and exploring civil engineering, she looks forward to the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Thank you all for joining us today. So next, what we're going to do, Harriet's going to show a quick video. This is going to have it's a short video with some pictures and some footage that our panelists sent in to us, and just to kind of show you kind of inside what their internship projects look like.
All right, hopefully that gave you a little bit of an insight into our 3 wonderful panelists here today. So thank you again for joining us. I'm going to start us off with our first question. I'm going to start with Jasmine. So Jasmine, if you wanted to introduce yourself, say hi to our wonderful attendees today. And my first question for you is, tell us about your internship journey, kind of how this is making an impact on your career.
Okay, well, I'll start off with introducing myself to everybody. Thank you all for tuning in today. I know that took time out of your probably lunch hour right now. I'm tuning in from Fresno, California, so I'm a current student from Fresno State. I recently started my civil engineering journey, I would say, through Caltrans here. So I started over a year ago. But throughout my internship experience, I have not only excelled tremendously academically, but also with my professional development. So before this internship, I kind of spoke to, well, some of the panel here about how I didn't really know anything too much about engineering or actually, yeah, anything engineering related. So when I went into this internship, I made sure to emphasize that I actually had more of an ambition to get into the field because I was like, hey, I know that on my resume I don't have the experience yet, but I need to get out there. So with this internship, I have not only been more confident in myself at work, but also through school, which has led me to the clubs that I have joined and all the progress I have made so far.
Nice. It definitely sounds like it's making a big impact for you. And like you said, I didn't know anything much about engineering. Cool that now you're fully immersed in it and you're proud to be part of it. So really, really happy for you there. Isidro, same question to you. Can you tell us about your internship journey? I know you're now a Caltrans employee, but tell us about how your internship had an impact for you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's definitely changed my life and the direction of that I've kind of moved throughout my career. So I just like Jasmine, I started not knowing a single thing about engineering at all. I was a freshman when I got my internship in here in traffic in District 6. And, just building the connections, the network, and, seeing the excitement my coworkers had, you know, it really brought a lot of passion to me about the traffic to transportation world. My interest going into civil engineering was structural engineering, buildings, seismic retrofits, things like that. But because of the passion that I got instilled into me early on in my career, I stayed in the transportation, the world. Um, so it's definitely had a huge impact. And just like you read in my bio, because I received a lot of mentorship early on, and I see a couple of the names here on the attendees. The couple of them are here, for my mentors. Uh, it has really pushed me to want to give back and help, those who are once in my shoes. So and that's kind of why I've taken Jasmine under my wing, and I know she's gonna skyrocket her career from here. And so it definitely has had a huge impact on my career.
That's awesome, Isidro. I mean, from going, like you said, not knowing much about engineering as a freshman, and then here you are, and especially being able to have an impact on someone like Jasmine, it's really cool. We've met with our panelists a couple of times just to go through kind of how this whole webinar was going to go through, and you can definitely see there's a connection that you guys are definitely a great mentor-mentee relationship. It's really cool to see. So you should be proud of yourself because you're living up to for what you're wanting to do. So it's really, really awesome. John, don't tell me you knew nothing about engineering going into it too.
Well, yeah, that's true. I didn't know much about engineering, but I thought I associated engineering with Caltrans. And so for me, I've been a student assistant since January of 2023. And the way that all started was I was kind of in my last year of school. I was looking for more hands-on experience. I didn't have an internship that I thought Yeah, I hadn't had an internship that I thought was really, like, applicable to the, major that I was in, and so I went and I reached out to my professor asking if there was any internship opportunities, which then he connected me to Caltrans, and I was like, "Oh, archaeology, GIS, what does that have to do with Caltrans?" So, through that connection, I was able to be connected with UEI and then become a student assistant and then just learn about cultural resources management within Caltrans and cultural preservation and mitigation practices. So yeah, like my impression of Caltrans before being in this student assistant position was it had to do with roads, bridges, building, all of that. But then I learned like there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes on behind the scenes that isn't necessarily broadcast or many people know about. So I just found that really enriching to be able to go and look for an internship, find an internship that was so applicable to my major, and just also in general work with a great team in District 5.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear you're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. All right, Laura, this kind of leads us nicely into our next question, but go ahead.
Yeah, so the next question is, what were your perceptions before you started working at Caltrans, and how has that changed for you? And I'll go ahead and start with Isidro.
Yeah, so my perception before joining Caltrans, honestly, I didn't have too much of an idea of who Caltrans was. As I said, I was a freshman when I joined in. So the main reason I got into Caltrans is because our deputy director of maintenance and operations here in District 6, he did a presentation um, at my freshman orientation class, and just the way he spoke about the transportation system, all the work that we do, the technology being involved, and he also said one thing. He said he always felt that Caltrans was like a family. At the time, I didn't believe him because everyone says that, but it's really cheesy to say. So I didn't believe him. But because of the transportation's interest that I had, I did end up applying to as an intern. So I didn't really have too much of a perception. But when I joined, I realized very quickly that what he said about the family-like culture, that we're all, we have a great relationship with our coworkers and peers. was 100% true. You know, and I see that now the connections that we have with our coworkers and peers is just really, really great. You know, you really build, I think, long-lasting friends and connections like that can do a lot. And like you mentioned earlier, Jasmine and I do have a great relationship, and I think it really shows that connection that we have within Caltrans. So I guess that's how it has changed for me, is mostly on that family-like culture that I believe we truly do have. And now that I'm on more on the management side, I do a lot of presentations and you know s- I guess outreach to our local university here at Fresno State. And I actually just got back from so I was rushing back. But I'm just like our deputy director at the time. I always tell him, we do have this culture within Caltrans, and I know being on their side, it sounds cheesy, but honestly, it is the truth.
Yeah, I love hearing that. You spoke about this, like Kurt mentioned before, with the webinars, and we met. Just hearing the story of how, as a freshman at college, somebody can present it to you. Now you worked your way up the career ladder. Now you are in this position. Now you're going out and doing outreach to the colleges and trying to recruit students and show them all about the culture at Caltrans. So that's awesome.
hmm
How about for you, John, next? What about, you kind of spoke a little bit about that earlier, but any more you want to add to that about your perceptions before Caltrans and how that might have changed for you now?
Yeah, so I mean, I knew that Caltrans had to do with roads. You're driving down a highway and there's road work being done. That was my first interaction with Caltrans. Like I said, I didn't really realize that there was all these other professions that Caltrans had. So like environmental professions, GIS or geographic information professions. So I was just pleasantly surprised that there were so many opportunities that Caltrans had that, on the surface you might not realize, but after being there, I've quickly learned. But I'd like to also mirror what Isidro said. The team that I'm a part of, it really does feel like a family. I mean, I have previous work experience, and immediately once I joined on with Caltrans, I could just see that and I could feel that. Everybody in my team is so supportive, and actually, it was through them that I was able to be hooked up with these other cultural resources management companies. So they were just like a really great professional connection to have. They're also very supportive of offering guidance for me when I'm very new into this career. So I just really, I've found that it's a really great environment to be in, and there's a lot of opportunities that you can get through with Caltrans.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And again, like we met with John before earlier, and just something we keep hearing with the panelists. It's so refreshing to hear the stories of all the support you guys are receiving, the resources, the culture of your teams, your management that are there to guide you, mentor you through this, and just learning more about what opportunities are available at Caltrans is definitely something why we want to do this webinar, to send that message out to a lot of other students, hopefully, that are considering to join our team as well. So
Right. And
thank you, John.
if I could add one more thing too, it's, like when I go and I'm either working in the office or I'm working with the other team members, it doesn't really feel like I'm working like at a job, like I'm just a number. It really does feel like Isidro said, family.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, Jasmine, for you. So any perceptions that you may have had before, things you heard of a Caltrans, and how that might have changed for you?
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking off of what Isidro said, before Caltrans, the only kind of really like material that I had to deal with them was, besides, obviously going onto the freeways and seeing Caltrans on the side, but that was those presentations when they would come into our freshman orientation classes. And I remember even sitting through those presentations back then, and I was like, not really paying much attention. I was like, well, I don't even see myself really at Caltrans. Like, there's no way I could really get there, even as a student. But now it's just the point at where I'm at. It's just looking back at that realization, like actually, I really was able to. And that whole time that they talked about that, this work feels more like a family because, well, to be honest, you see these people more often than you see your family, especially when you're working full time in the summer. So that was something that I also came to realize. But it was really just that big realization was knowing like wow, I really was able to be here that whole time, because before I was like, that's impossible. Like, I don't see myself with Caltrans, but it's like, okay, I'm here and I actually see my future career set out with them. And then that's also something else I really want to add that I love about Caltrans, is that whole just like family environment, is that they really want to see you succeed and strive. So prior to this internship, I would probably be at the same spot that I was in before, with just, sticking through my classes, doing that. But with this internship, I not only have motivation to succeed in my career, so with taking my EIT exam, which is, the first exam to your license, and just things like that, where it's really this family environment that kept me pushing, because for me, I'm the first engineer in my family. So a lot of this stuff, I really went into college without any experience. I'm kind of like navigating it on my own. But Caltrans has provided me the greatest resource of having so many other mentors. And I mean, aside from Isidro, but especially with him, just learning how to get through engineering, because before I was so lost, and I am just so thankful for that experience.
Yeah, that's just so awesome just to hear all of the, refreshing stories of just, again, the resources, the support that everybody has been receiving. And just to see like Isidro starting off as an intern, like you and John, Jasmine, and then coming up through the ranks to branch chief currently, just showing that like, the paths are endless, what you can do. Like it's really matters like what you decide to do. But there's so many opportunities, and when you decide to take a different kind of a turn, a different pathway, it's available, it's there. But just hearing, the stories of support and the mentorship, and it's so strong, and something that we're super excited to bring this webinar to other students, to impart on them. That if you come to Caltrans, you definitely are going to receive the same kind of support, this kind of family culture. Everybody's here to support you through that and wants to see you win. So that's the main message, I think. So thank you so much. And next is Harriet.
I love it. It's like we're laying the cheese on thick, but it's like the good kind of cheese, from like the high up shelves that you have to. Anyway, I'm going too far with that. Anyway, I love it. I love all the family orientation about this. This is really cool. So John, okay, so you guys sent some really cool images and really cool footage for that little video compilation. But can you tell us a bit more about a day-to-day for you with your experience? You said kind of doesn't really feel like working, and it looks like you get to spend a lot of time outdoors. So just curious if you could share a little bit more about what a day in your life as a Caltrans intern looks like.
Yeah, I mean, every day is kind of different, which for me, that's something that I really like, having all these a variety of things going on. So sometimes I might be out in the field, like you saw in those pictures, outdoors. And that could be doing ground surveys. So you're walking along in the right of way of Caltrans, looking at the ground, looking for cultural material and artifacts that might be present. Um, Other times it might be monitoring for ground disturbance. So if there was anything like a project that was going to go on, and either there's cultural resources nearby, or it's highly likely that there could be buried material in that area, um, you're going to need to have a archaeological monitor present, so that way you're documenting if anything was to be found. So those are two examples of things I've done out in the field. But other than that, it's a lot of compliance with different laws. So I might be reading reports, and I might be looking to kind of see what these reports say and familiarizing myself with them. I'm not at the level of writing reports yet, but this is like a step in order to familiarize myself, so that way eventually I could be writing reports. Um, Also working remotely from home. So there's the CCRD, which is the Caltrans Cultural Resources Database. And that's basically a GIS component that maps where all of these cultural resources are that are documented within along the highway system. And so I'll be adding files to that, again, reports and different things that come from the investigations that Caltrans does. So it's a little bit of a mix, which I like, being outside all the time can be taxing, especially in like the summertime and hot weather. So it's nice to be in the office working with the team, doing some filing, or even getting on to a tribal consultation meeting. So that's one thing that Caltrans does. So yeah, sitting in on those and really just seeing like the collaboration between Caltrans and the different tribes that are being consulted with and the projects and things like that that are going on. So yeah, it's really just different day to day, and it's something that I really enjoy. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I do. I mean, there's other things I'm sure I'm forgetting, but off the top of my head, that's what I'll say.
No, it sounds great. I mean, who doesn't love a variety in what they're doing, right? So it's great. You get some time outdoors, some time, remotely indoors. You mentioned some of these cultural resources. Is there anything in particular that have you come across, or someone on your team's come across while you've been interning with them?
Right. Yeah. I mean, one thing that I didn't realize was, Caltrans deals with historic properties.
Mm.
So there's certain like historic properties. I was up in the Santa Cruz area with one of the Caltrans employees, and we are going up there and doing like a quick survey because they were going to put in an ADA part of the sidewalk. So just seeing like these historic properties that are being preserved and just like that, I guess, yeah, advocacy for historical preservation has been really cool. So I've been able to see some really cool historic buildings, also prehistoric archaeological sites as well. And I can't talk too much about that. It's kind of confidential.
Secret. Got it. Got it.
Right. But, there are some very cool things out there, and there's some it's really nice to know that, not just like American historic preservation is happening, but also preservation of indigenous cultures as well.
That's really cool. It's nice to see an inside look at that too. You said you have attended some council meetings and such with tribal affairs type of.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about that. So one thing that I thought was really cool was I was sitting in on this meeting and I was like seeing the collaboration happening between the tribes and the Caltrans archaeologists. And also there was also a component with this state parks as well because it was right within an area on the Gaviota Coast that crossed into state property. But basically, it was cool because, like there's a project that was going to happen. I believe it was a bridge rehabilitation. But one of the requests by the tribes was to um, develop a web map that kind of showed the cultural history of the Chumash people in that area. And so basically, they're putting together this web map that shows these different trade routes that people were using, the
Oh
different
wow.
resources that that are important to them. And so it's like a really great just public education, it's things that I don't think a lot of people necessarily think about all the time. You're driving down the highway and you might not be thinking about the prehistoric or like the indigenous history there. But yeah, so I thought that was a really cool project that was happening, and just like like I said, like collaboration between the tribes and Caltrans. We love to see it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's really interesting to hear how we're moving forward not only with environmental sustainability, but like cultural sustainability and ensuring that we're meeting with these relevant parties to ensure a positive outcome. That's really cool and
Right.
great that you're a part of it. So thank you again for sharing.
Yeah.
All right, Isidro, you've got a really sweet background. I feel like you need to share that a bit more about what's going on behind you, and same question to you. Share a bit about your day to day.
Yeah, so what I do want to also touch on is what my day-to-day looked like when I was a student.
Hmm.
And what I got hired on with truck services. My senior at the time, he had set out a plan of tasks for me to do. He thought it would take me 6 to 8 months to do so. And I came in and I finished it within 2 weeks, and then he was just lost. He didn't have any other work for me to do, so he loaned me out to traffic investigations or traffic safety here in District 6. And they didn't really have much work for me to do either, so they just had me doing some filing, some paperwork, right? And I'm one who just will take anything and will work hard at it. But what I also did is while reading, I had to file basically traffic collision reports. And while filing those, I would actually read them, ask the engineers questions, and that kind of showed them that I had an interest to do, more than that. And also while doing all that reading and all stuff like that, I also enhanced their filing system. So I came up with a more efficient way, an easier way for them to file their paperwork. All that kind of started, that that again that spark in them to realize, oh, he can do more than just that. And so with that, they started giving me traffic investigation reports to write on my own, and that would, do collision analysis. I'd go to the field, look at site distances, do ball bank measurements, whatever I needed to do. And even within, I incorporated GoPros, so other ways to more efficiently, um, capture what the field looked like at the time of the investigation, for for future usage when if it would get deposed in a legal situation. Um, and so you know, because of all the stuff that I would start incorporating and all the ideas, they started giving me more and more work to do. And I would like to having that responsibility, being more involved. And so towards the end of my time as a student assistant, I would kind of be balancing between traffic investigation reports. I'd attend constructability review meetings. I would do guardrail task orders, safety device recommendations. And I was also part of the safety review committee. So, it was nice being involved in so much at the time. And, like I said, it has really kind of changed my life and my career to what it is now. And that kind of sparked again that interest in traffic engineering. And so my day-to-day has kind of changed every position I take on. So I spent some time in design, working on technical reports, project reports, and then delivering some PS&Es. In construction, you're out in the field, inspections, closely working with the contractor to making sure that the projects meet, our policies and standards. And even in construction, it was nice, just being able to connect with the contractor, so that it doesn't feel like we're just watching them or babysitting them, right? It was actually nice to build a relationship with them. And actually, when I was in construction, I had connected so well with some of the contractors or the laborers that I connected with the son who was a student at Fresno State actually, and I was in Bakersfield, and so I was able to help his son who is now at Caltrans in District 5. And so it just feels like it's all kind of coming back, and it just feels like it's such a small world when you think about it. And then kind of jumping into my current position as the branch chief of traffic management, you can kind of see my background. So this is our District 6 Traffic Management Center. I'm sorry, Transportation Management Center. I always pick on Jasmine for getting it wrong, so now I got it wrong. But basically our day-to-day operation, and I get to supervise and kind of be the eye candy of Caltrans by having all the technology in here. So it's a it's a very nice kind of getting to see a little bit of everything from the traffic engineering side, the design, construction, and now I'm involved with the day-to-day operations and just ensuring traffic just moves smoothly. And so again, I would just really thank the opportunity that I had to become a student and how all that kind of has helped me in my career. And I really believe it's one of the main reasons why I've been able to promote so quickly and become one of the youngest seniors. Just having that network and that background and being able to again to share that experience off to the others.
Yeah, really huge props to you. It sounds like you had a really robust student assistant experience. I mean, the type of projects you were involved in and joining different committees and stuff, that's huge. You were very much engaged, and evidently that was shown, and
Yeah.
they wanted to keep you on. I mean, who could blame them? So
Yeah.
really phenomenal. And then also to see that kind of culture of mentoring that you're fostering. You mentioned that in your biography, but just like you said, you're reaching out to your friend's son, and obviously you have Jasmine and others that you work with. It's just really cool to see that continue on. So huge props to you. It sounds like you definitely made the most of your experience, and then here you are, like you said, youngest senior, and that's huge, great accomplishment. So well done
Yeah.
to you.
And that's one of the big things that I advise to students apart from some of the stuff that maybe I'll mention later, but one of the big things is take advantage of any work that you get, because I always tell Jasmine, and because I always picked on her Excel skills. She came in and she told me she was tech savvy, but she wasn't. And maybe she could tell that story. But, take advantage of any little work that they give you. And because I always feel like there's always a better way to do things. There's always ways for innovation, new technology to implement, better processes. And, us as managers, we're always looking for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, be it students or anyone on a team, if you're given the opportunity, jump on it. You never
Mhm.
get that opportunity again, right? Every day is an interview and you're really proving yourself. So
Absolutely.
it's great to be the one to give people that opportunity. So that's really cool. So Jasmine, besides getting picked on by a secret all day, how is it in your life as an intern?
Yeah, so my internship has actually been extremely the most it's actually the most of what I've made out of it, so that's why I love, so especially having a Cedro as my supervisor, because there are the typical supervisors where you are maybe thinking like your classic intern work where it's like you're at your desk all day doing paperwork or whatnot. But with my day-to-day, no day's ever the same. So that's something that I'm very thankful for. So at first when I did start out, me and the Cedro did, he hammered down the whole Caltrans contract process with me and the way that projects roll out. So that was something at first I came in, I was like, I have to learn all this technical stuff. So that was at first kind of scary, but now looking back, I understood why he taught me the way he did, because when it comes to the transportation management plans that we
She,
make,
she still gets it wrong.
TMPs are transportation management plans. The TMC is Transportation Management Center. But no, with that too, like he's saying, really just never saying no to these projects has led me to have, I think, the most impact and experience with this internship, because not only have I made like small stuff, well, small to me because I'm so tech savvy, like making a new template on Excel, but just stuff like that where he has really kind of made me advance my skills, because I came in, I told him I was tech savvy because to me, I am the IT of my family. Any problem they have, they come to me and I fix it just like that, you know? So when I came into this, I was like, of course I'm very tech savvy. I learned very quickly that engineers are way more tech savvy than I am. But with that though, he hasn't made it be like a deterrent. He's actually made it be something that I'm like, okay, you know what? Now I want to learn more and actually teach me this too. Okay, you're showing me this. How did you just do that? So it's kind of really making the most out of what you're given too, I feel like, just asking those questions. Because aside from that, I feel like I've branched myself out of my work a lot of, like, for example, doing this ambassador program. I've never really turned down opportunities that were given to me. And I think that's something that really made this internship meaningful for me, because not only do I help the underserved communities with like projects that I see rolling out and the way that these are, serving those communities, but then I also get to see the way that I make an impact within my team and then within that. So that has been really nice. And then aside from that too, just kind of getting a little more comfortable with public speaking. So something like this would have made me tremble, shake. I would have never done something like this like over a year ago. But with Isidro and him pushing me, I say pushing me because I do a lot of on the spot presentations sometimes where I'm like, okay, hey, I just started working at this office, but I'm gonna teach you what this whole office does. So it's just stuff like that where every day when I first started, it was just never really it was never just like boring. It was always something exciting, I should say. But with that too, yeah, every day has just been tremendous. But
Awesome. It's great to hear. And it sounds like you're facing all these challenges and just being like, let me show you what I can do. I love it. I love that attitude. You're like, yeah, I got this. And, being with a supportive team obviously helps, right? Which is what you've shared. It's been a great experience. So good on you for making the most of it. That's really awesome. It sounds like
yeah.
all of you have really, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, not only just like with like learning all the technical skills with like bettering myself as well professionally, but also just like getting to see the projects roll out too. Because when you first start up in the office, a lot of the projects you see, it's just paperwork. You don't really see it out for a while. And then once you do, it's like, okay, like, wow, that one paper, that one report I worked on, that's what led to this. Or I worked with this group because, well, we kind of touched on it earlier, but Caltrans is a big team of many different professions. We even have a legal team. We even have like environmental. We have just from every single aspect that you could think of. So just with that too, it's had me learn a lot more, even just outside of engineering, just technical work.
Cool. Yeah, it's always nice to see something you've been working on actually come to fruition, right? And see it in real life. Yeah, with we're around 22,000 employees now with Caltrans statewide. So, like you said, so many different occupations, so many different opportunities. So, definitely cool to be a part of it. So I'm glad you all seem like you've really made the most of your experiences. I could get to Laura to ask our next question.
Yeah, so the next question is, how has attending college and school while doing your internship been for you? And so I'm going to give Jasmine a break since she already gets a lot of picking on from Isidra, and we'll start with John.
Yeah, I'll keep it relatively brief, but first of all, if you're thinking about doing an internship while in school, I highly recommend it. It's probably, for me, it was, I think, everybody in this panel has kind of said this, but it really kind of set me apart from what I was doing before, like I was just taking classes, I thought like, okay, well, I'm learning things and this is going to apply to the real world and like the job market after I graduate. But when I was actually in this, when I started as an intern, I quickly realized like, okay, well, these are things that are actually going to have real world value. And so, like for example, I was taking a cultural resources management class, and I mean, I was learning the material, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily seem as important, or it's like, oh, I'm just remembering this so I can take a test and answer the questions. But while I was an intern and then or yeah while I was an intern and taking this class, I was able to like really cross reference the material and have like a broader understanding of actually what was going on. So I was learning about laws in class, then I was reading reports as an intern and actually seeing like, okay, this is the National Historic Preservation Act in action here. So it really like it not that there was a disconnect when I was in class before, but it really just showed me that there was real world applications to the things I was learning. And yeah, just like solidified my knowledge. And yeah, no, I think that like internships are great for students, and it's going to look great on a resume. You're going to like learn to actually work within a professional environment. And I really couldn't recommend it to anybody any more than I already have. It's really just like a great thing to be a part of. So I highly encourage any student out there, if you're thinking about getting an internship, reach out to your professors, see what they have. That's what I did. And especially if you're thinking about working with Caltrans, try to become a student assistant with Caltrans. It's great.
That's awesome, John. Yeah, just the power of, getting book knowledge, but also getting the hands-on is definitely so powerful. Just makes it a lot easier to take in that information and just really make sense of it. So I definitely agree with everything you said there. So thank you, John.
Mhm.
So next we'll move over to Jasmine, if you want to talk a little bit about how you've been handling schooling while you're doing your internship and maybe how you balance that, any tips you have maybe for any of the students here.
Yeah, so with that, I mean, for me, I have always not been the best with time management, but this internship and like balancing school and work has kind of really made me be that way, where I'm more better at balancing my stuff. I'm not perfect, I still have some days where I'm like, oh man, it's a little bit harder than others, but nothing that's anything too crazy. And I think with that too, that comes a lot from having that relationship with my supervisor. So kind of with Caltrans, they know that you're a student before anything, and that's one thing that I really value from Caltrans, because I've worked many other jobs before, some student assistant jobs, some, like retail or something, and they can say, "Hey, we're a family, we'll respect your schedule," but, we know that's not always the case, but with Caltrans, that really is the case, and then especially too with, like, the benefits of being able to work teleworking, so working from any, like, remote location, that has come very, handy for me. So with that too, just aside from that, like, the benefits of that, I've also felt that it's helped me. I've kinda mentioned it earlier, but it helped me a lot in school, Not only have I become more confident in my classes, but whenever I'm in some of my transportation classes and we're reading about the highway capacity manual, I'm like, oh, I just read that chapter because I had to look at this formula or something like that from work. And I'm like able to connect the two, or I'm able to see like, okay, so maybe they didn't just put this random equation up for no reason. Like maybe the professor really had a reason, you know, but just being able to make those connections and just seeing that full circle. But also too with that, I have made a lot more connections and relationships with professors on campus and advisors. Because when I first started out, I wasn't really active on campus at all. I mean, COVID did play a big part with my start of the college journey, but even with that, once we returned, I wasn't really doing much besides going to classes and going home. So with this internship, now I'm on campus all the time. Now I'm involved in student clubs. Now I'm talking to these people, and now I'm even recruiting students to come to Caltrans. I'm like, hey guys, Caltrans is so great. You learn so much. The team that you're on, like it's just everything about Caltrans has been so inspiring that I think I've even pulled 2 or 3 of my friends to join Caltrans with me as well. But just, I mean, it speaks for itself. I tell them too, I check in with them once they're doing it. They're like, wow, like, yeah, it's so fun. Or I'm learning about this. And it's just, you're doing work that you would never have the opportunity to do before. And especially too with the impact that it serves to, like, you're impacting these big communities, you know, like each district covers so many counties. So you really get to see the full impact of Caltrans.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's nothing better than like word of mouth coming from our interns and from our employees. So that's really powerful messaging, you know, out in the communities. You're going to school and spreading the news about it. You and your team, including Isidro, are still doing presentations. So powerful, just connecting with these students, future, you know, candidates for Caltrans potentially. So really impactful work. Thank you so much, Jasmine. And how about for you, Isidro, anything you want to add, like when you were going to school and like how you're balancing your internship at that time? Anything you want to add to that?
The only thing I will add is kind of what Jasmine already said is especially now as a manager, we want the students to know that school comes first. We're going to work with you, be flexible around your class schedule if you have exams, if you need to study, right? Because obviously without that degree, we can't hire you. So we want you to graduate.
Mhm.
And we're very supportive and very flexible to what your needs are. So we can always make it work if something comes up. So just a reminder that we do care about what you have going on at school. Um, and I actually felt that when I was a student too. So that I know how much it really helps having that flexibility and support from your supervisor, and you don't have that pressure like, oh, you have to go to work and finish up my deadlines. We'll make it work if you're not available because like I said, school comes first. But yeah, Jasmine has done a great job with recruiting. Actually, one of her friends just caught me in the hall earlier and and jokingly got mad that I stole 2 of her friends from the transportation.
I love it. That's awesome. I love hearing all of this. It's just amazing just to hear like the impact that you all are doing, you know, the experience that you're sharing and then, you know, spreading the word about it and just it really catches fire and people hear this and then they just are really interested in like joining that team, right? That kind of support and that culture. So really amazing. Thank you all so much.
Mhm.
So next I'm gonna hand it over to Harriet.
Yeah, so we're kind of done with our selected questions. So this is kind of a time we'd love our attendees to submit your questions into the chat. For those of you who are tuning in on YouTube, please go ahead and send us emails. We've had a couple come in already, but to dhr.communications@dot.ca.gov. Just a reminder there. So we'll give you guys a couple minutes to submit some questions. Let's see if you're coming through, but just give you a couple more minutes. But Isidro, I want to talk to you a little bit more just because of that perspective from the employer perspective. So I am also a manager here at Caltrans, and I've had the great opportunity to hire not only 2 students, but also hire them on as full-time employees as well. And I know we were talking a little bit before about kind of there's a misconception, right? Where it's like, oh, you hire on a student and it's gonna take so long to train them how to do, you may as well just do it yourself. but I wanted to get your perception on what it's like to be working with a student as an employer, and how, I mean, I feel like it's a huge benefit with the different perspectives they give, and
Mhm.
you know, the experience they can contribute towards. So I'd love to hear your perspective on what it's like to have students on board.
In one word, it's very refreshing. But but before we get into that, I do want to remind everyone that, as students, we don't look for experience. We're just looking for someone who's eager and excited to come and learn. And it's that plain and simple. So if you come in with that positive, excited attitude, it goes a long way, and it shows. Jasmine had that when she interviewed with me, and immediately as soon as she walked out the door, we all the panel, we all looked at each other, we're like, she's the one. And primarily because she had that attitude that she wanted to learn, and obviously she's shown that since she's been here. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for. Um, I kind of forgot what you asked, but
Just your perception. So, you know, hiring on a student, how does that benefit you as
oh,
an
okay.
employer?
Oh yeah, it's huge. Um, like I said, very refreshing having them because they have young, fresh ideas, and we want to hear those new perspectives. Uh, so it's a huge benefit because obviously they are the future. They are the future of Caltrans, the transportation industry. So being able to work with them is very, very, very great. And I always tell other managers that, to me, the most crucial time is that onboarding process, right? That first month or so with the students, because that's when you get that excitement in them to want to stay at Caltrans, or want to stay in transportation. You know what? Jasmine actually helped me revamp the entire process that we did here in traffic management. And now we have this whole checklist, this whole process of how we get the students excited. And we've used it on students, and we've used it on full-time employees too, and it's been worked wonders. So the work that they do for us goes a long way. And on the other end, I also supervise 3 electrical engineers, students, and they are responsible for the whole back end work of the softwares that are my staff uses for the TMC. So they have those fresh ideas, and it just goes a long way. I'll just give them, say, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. They get done within a week, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
Like
And
a couple of mini yous hanging out.
yeah, so it's really nice, and having that environment, that strong teamwork with us is so nice. Being able to joke around with them so that it doesn't feel like that we basically take the title out. We just kind of hang out. So Jasmine knows we all kind of joke around in the conference room when we have meetings. But it's always a good time, and we try to make it feel like it's not just work, right? We're just kind of here just to being nerds in a sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things you can hire personality, right? You know, making sure it's a good fit culturally. You can always train, like students,
Yeah,
coming in as a student assistant, you do not have to have experience. I think you have to, it's a minimum of a 2.0 GPA. And you have to be a full-time
yeah. I think
student. But yeah, you can
six units.
6
So
units, right? So you come in, we want to help and train you, and help to
yeah,
cultivate that talent pipeline, right? We have an adopt a school program, we have youth mentoring. Student interns are like a huge part of that, to really feed that pipeline to help people get interested in the transportation industry. And as all of us have been sharing, there's so much available here at Caltrans, that
yeah,
really getting your foot in the door as an intern is a great opportunity. So I applaud you
definitely.
all for taking that and rolling with it, and making the most of it. So really, really thank you. Uh,
And just one more note is I want to remind everyone that, as managers, we want people to take our place. I know some people think that we have a misconception that we don't want people taking our spot, but we do. Because how else am I going to move up if I have no one else to take my spot? And
Good
so we
point.
kind of need that pipeline like you were talking about.
Definitely.
We need to train the future leaders to get there.
It
Absolutely.
sounds like Jasmine might be on her way to take your spot next. So
She's going to be the next district director.
awesome.
Love it.
I love it. Yeah. Definitely. So I kind of looked through some of the questions in the chat, Harriet, and a lot of the questions are more on the specifics, like on the internships, more specifics probably that we can unpack here. So for the attendees, I did put some links in the chat there where you can search UEI. That's where you would search and apply for the internships that they've all done. It gives you a lot of the details there about the eligibility. Every job you look at has different type of information. You have to kind of read that. And there's a link in there as well for our Caltrans student assistant program. There's some information on that website page along with a contact email. I encourage you to reach out to the contact email for more specifics on the internships. And then I also did put in the chat as well, connection either on LinkedIn or emails for our panelists in there. You'll see that for Isidro and John and Jasmine. And then lastly, if you are interested in like a permanent position more than an internship, in case that's your interest, I did include the Ask Recruitment email box there if you want to reach out to them. And anything regarding this webinar or future webinars, you can reach out to Harry and I at the DHR communications email. And I did check the email as well, Harriet, for any questions. I didn't see any coming in through our email box there. There were other emails, but there's some really good comments in here, and there are some great questions, but probably not. I don't know that we can actually impact some of those questions here.
I'm running a little short on time. I do see one at the end. It's putting Jasmine on the spot though, but I like it. Do you see yourself staying with Caltrans after graduation?
Good question.
I do.
No.
As long as they keep me. No. Yeah. No, with Caltrans especially too. I mean, they even have me thinking about getting my drone license, which I would have never put into my head at all. So I really do see my future with Caltrans. As long as positions are available, hopefully, but
that's awesome.
Well, and I question to you, John. I'm curious.
Yeah, so actually, I just applied for a job with Caltrans in District 11 as an archaeologist. I don't necessarily know if I meet the qualifications quite yet. There's certain things that I need to build up my experience in, but eventually, yeah, I'd like to stay on with Caltrans and work for them full time. So there are there's certain tests that you have to do to be a Caltrans archaeologist. And so, yeah, I'm looking into that, getting the experience, working as a student assistant with Caltrans, and then also getting that experience with these private cultural resources management companies. So eventually, yeah, I'd love to be a part of the Caltrans family full time.
Awesome.
Right answer. Right answer. We did not pay them to say that.
No, yeah, seriously, this is genuine. Like the experience has been extremely great. So it's hard to. It'd be hard to really just, lie about something like this when you feel so passionate.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
So it looks like there's, we might have time, well, if anyone wants to hang around, but there's a question about a project that you've worked on that you felt you learned the most from. We are 2 minutes left in our presentation, but perhaps we can, perhaps we will, I don't know. If you wanted to quickly, briefly answer that, feel free. I also wanted to do a short plug for our next episode that is going to be, and it's funny, Jasmine, that you should say about being a drone pilot, because we are going to be interviewing a bunch of our drone pilots. It's going to be about CT Tech, Caltrans Tech, and how we utilize drone technology in our projects. So that'll be super exciting. Look out for that announcement coming out soon. But yeah, if you have any additional additional questions or any suggestions on future areas of Caltrans you'd like to hear from, which areas, feel free to contact us, as Laura said, at DHR Communications. We would love to hear feedback on where you would like us to conversate with next. But yeah, with that, I was ambitious to try and get a final question in, so I apologize. But Laura, I'll let you close us out. Sorry.
Yeah, just the last minute, just want to say thank you so much to our panelists. It's been amazing just working with you all and meeting with you. We've learned so much just talking with you all, and it's really inspiring and motivating as well. But thank you for joining us today. And to all of our attendees, look out for more CT Talks webinars. Follow us on LinkedIn and other social media channels. And we will be sending out the recording at some point afterwards. You will receive that, and you do have the links there. So if you're interested in career pathways, definitely reach out to recruitment and they can help you with that. And thank you for joining us. Thanks, Harriet.
Thank you so much, John, Jasmine, Isidro. You were wonderful panelists. Thank you so much for all your insight. It's evident that it's been really well received from everyone. There's lots of applause happening and lots of positive feedback. So really appreciate your time. Jasmine, I would never know you were afraid of public speaking. You did wonderfully. Thank you all. This is huge opportunity for us to share